Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us here on Facebook and YouTube as well. Let me turn this down so I'm not getting an echo of myself. I am here. I'm Courtney Robinson. I'm an anchor for the noon as well as the 5 to 6 p.m. And I'm here with Jennifer Titus, our investigative reporter, and Lauren Powell, our investigative producer. They churn out amazing pieces all throughout the year, and the one that is airing tonight at 6 o'clock is a really important one. It impacts not just parents of school children, but anyone on the roadway, right?
Yes.
So how did all of this come about? What have you all been looking into?
So basically, we had a accident back in November in Pasco County of a school bus and a car, and it was a fatal crash. The driver of the other car passed away, and the bus driver was cited for that accident. So what we did was we started looking into, we just wanted to know, because we always ask ourselves why, basically, is our big question in our unit. So we started basically asking that question, why did this crash happen? Well, as we looked into that, we asked for the bus driver's records from the Pasco County School District, and had seen that that bus driver had been suspended twice before for other incidents and stuff. And so then we started asking the Pasco County School District why was that bus driver still behind the wheel, and that's what kind of led us to looking at that across all districts. And we found down in Manatee County, there was a lawsuit against the district now where there was a bus driver, it alleges, and we verified from the school district that had been in 5 accidents in 3 years before they were fired. So then we asked that school district, why. And what we kind of learned is that everything works as a point system when it comes to school bus drivers. So just because you may, hit a pole or maybe, back into a car or something doesn't mean you're taken from behind the wheel. There's all different sorts of disciplines. It's all on the amount of points you get. Is it a written warning?
Right.
Is it more training? Is it a suspension?
And it's not across the board.
That's what I was going to ask. The one thing that, I know, having worked with both of you for a long time, and especially when we talk about the education system, it varies. The policies vary from county to county. We have 10 counties in our area. There are 67 different counties in the state of Florida. So is it uniform when it comes to bus drivers?
No. Every county has a different point system and different penalties depending on the points. So that's where it gets a little tricky too, is, so you could technically be, do one thing in one county and then get written up for it.
Right.
And then go to another county and maybe there aren't any repercussions, for getting into an accident. So it varies depending on which county you're in.
It could be like, training. Every county has a safe driver's plan. It's Florida law to have a safe driver's plan for school bus drivers. And so that basically says what part of that safe driver's plan has to deal with training for school bus drivers, and it also has to deal with the discipline and the points like we mentioned. So you get all different points. If you're speeding, you get a certain number of points. If you have a reckless driving, you have a number of points. But again, those points aren't universal district to district. It's not a crazy divide, but it's just not universal. One could be 3 points, one could be 6 points.
Right.
And then it's that number of points. If you have 3 to 6 points in a matter of time, it could be this discipline for this county. If you have so many in a year, it could be suspension. If you have so many in a year, then that's termination. And that's why we uncovered some bus drivers with multiple accidents still behind the wheel, because it's that point system. So maybe they were suspended, but they weren't terminated. Maybe 3 years ago they had 5 accidents, so they were suspended 3 years ago, and they've been good for a year, get another accident a year later, and then that point system starts over.
If you're just now joining us, please, if you have any questions for investigative reporter Jennifer Titus or our investigative producer Lauren Powell, please ask. Again, this all started after a fatal crash involving a school bus driver in Pasco County, and then they started to dig into, was it just our counties, or did you look all over Florida?
We looked across the state, for any like fatal crashes or serious crashes. And yeah, we found quite a few, that would have worked for this story.
Let's share this
if
we can. We have some video that we want to share with you. Jen, what are we getting ready to look at?
And this is video that we got. This was a woman driving. She was in a Tesla, and Teslas actually have built-in cameras, so that's why you see this extreme video here. You see everything up to the impact of the school bus out there. and this was in Orange County. And then, of course, that Tesla crashes into the school bus here. And so we interviewed her because when this report was taken from FHP, they said that the school bus pulled out in front of her driving. And so we did ask that school district for the history of that driver, see if this driver had had any other accidents before. And there was everything from a light pole to an awning to another car. So it just showed that, that these bus drivers,
And at last check, this driver is still driving.
Yeah.
So.
Because, like we said, it works on that point system. So we learned a lot. I feel like we always educate ourselves, and we really try to educate you guys, the viewers,
right.
And answer that question, why, why this happens, and way these drivers are still out on the wheel. And when we interviewed Pasco County schools, they told us that most of the times it is training, even if it isn't the bus driver's fault and they're involved in an accident, that they could still just tell them that they need to train. Maybe this went wrong, maybe they weren't at fault for it, but they say that these
and we do.
And you have videos from other incidents as well, not just this one from Orange County. One thing that is important to point out, I thought was interesting as we were sitting here talking about it before we started this live stream with you all, is it's not just about the children. We have young kids, you worry about them and their safety and whatnot, but it's not about necessarily the children, it's about everyone else out there on the roads too.
Right. Yeah. I mean, school buses are actually really safe for for kids and for the driver on the bus. But what was interesting for us with this story is that it's the other people that are driving around. So any of you out there driving around alongside a school bus, what happens? Because that is a big vehicle. And if you hit it, there's going to be a lot of damage. And I think we should also note in that crash that we just showed you, the driver did survive that crash, but she had 2 service dogs in her vehicle, and one of them died. But the driver was okay. But still, I mean, she's still dealing with a lot of medical issues.
And I know that you all will answer a lot of the questions that we're going to be able to watch tonight at 6 o'clock when your investigation airs. I'm curious because, like you said, you started with Pasco and then moved around the state and, of course, our counties, and finding some of these issues. When you took that to leadership, because I know that you did, were they surprised?
No, I think they are pretty much think that they have, a good system in place, and they say that, there's so many buses out on the roads that thankfully they're bus drivers for the most part are great bus drivers, and they say for how many miles they are, but again we just wanted to know why these ones that do have multiple accidents are still, and so they stand by that the training is good, and they will look, though the Manatee County Schools said that they do go back, the head of transportation does go back to see if the system is working. Maybe they need to make it a little bit more together with a different county. Who we talked to down there, Manatee County Schools actually used to work at Hillsborough County Schools. So he's like, yeah, there is difference between how Hillsborough County Schools points is and Manatee County Schools, and they can always go back districts and change things if they need to, that they'll go back and look at that. And
I'm curious, talking about moving from district, you pointed out earlier, Lauren, that a bus driver may have an incident, a serious incident in one county, and then, move to another county and it wouldn't show. Does it go on their driving record, though, where if I were to run their record that it would come up?
It's how everything, it depends on if they were ticketed for the situation, right? So if it went through, but
state,
say,
right,
say if they bumped into an awning, or if they bumped into a pole or something at a school, if that would have been reported to, the Florida Highway of Motor Vehicles. What we also found about this too is that there is state statute that requires every week for the state to send to every school district, say any employee, not just a bus driver, anybody driving a district car gets involved into an accident or a traffic violation in their own personal car, that the state sends that every week to those districts. So say I was, a bus driver and I got into a car crash that was my fault in my own personal car, that would be sent then to the district. The problem is that it's emails to the districts. There's not really a database, so the districts have to go in and do that all manually. So they have to go through each email, each document manually that they get from the state. And we did ask, I think it was Hillsborough County Schools, who told us that actually a database would probably be helpful for them to make it easier for them, because it is time consuming going through every report and then adding that to the records already that they already have to go through.
You know, and if you're joining us, if you're out there, if you have questions, please put them in the chat so that I can share them with Jennifer and Lauren as well. And when we look at this investigation that you all are talking about, it's school bus drivers specifically, not just bringing it on you, but do you know, I mean, like, how many bus drivers are there in Hillsborough, for example, school bus drivers? Or
there's thousands in Hillsborough, and then, like, it's funny how, like, Hillsborough is huge,
Right,
and then Manatee County, I think they were up there, not at 1,000, but, you know, hundreds in Manatee, hundreds in Manatee County. And what we did find too is the districts, what we had asked for, what we had requested is we had requested, just going back even a year, for the amount of bus drivers that had, you know, been disciplined and have some sort of points on their record. So that's really what we went through. But we did have some districts that these records that you would think would be easily available, because you want somebody looking to see, you know, which bus drivers are maybe red flagged and whatnot for having an accident. Some of those districts did want to charge us money, some hundreds of dollars, to get those records, or they didn't have something like that. Some of them told us they just didn't have something like that, so they needed individual names to go back. So, you know, the databases and the spreadsheets and the Excels that districts have, we did find that varied from district to district.
And that was kind of a red flag for us too, because whenever we put in the request for that information and they tell us, you know, it's not easy, if they charge you a lot of money, generally it means that they're not easily accessible records. So,
and that's another question, right?
So then that raised red flags for us. We were like, okay, well, if they're having that much of a hard time finding it for us, are they even able to look at these bus drivers' records?
How do they know?
So, you know, so that was kind of, you know, and that's kind of how these investigations evolve in a lot of cases, is, you know, when we put in those records requests.
And again, this all started with an incident in Pasco, a fatal crash. The bus driver was okay?
Yes.
The children on the bus, they were okay?
There was no children on the bus at the time. It was
But the driver.
And so that's the thing is too, because a lot of the districts that we talked to, they said, you know, these buses are the safest vehicle out there on the road, you know, for the children, for those on board. And that's kind of the point we were kind of make. It's like, of course they are. They're safe for the people on board, but what about you or I that are driving next to this bus? And kind of just what happens, like if they don't stop at a stop sign and they end up, you know, hitting us, you know, what are they taking from behind the wheel, because they're going to cause a lot more damage than just a car hitting another car when you have a huge school bus like this. So that's what it was, just interesting learning how it works, how the system works, how the plan works, the training. You know, bus drivers go through a lot of training before they get behind the wheel, and then of course yearly they go through training that we learned again. So they are continuously getting trained. It's just, you know, some of them were written warnings, not training, even though we were told that training takes place.
And it is worth, we also bring this up within the story too. There is a bus driver shortage right now across the state. So, and we asked that, you know, well, obviously you guys are pushing to get people to drive buses. Does that take precedent over, you know, their records and their safety? And we were told absolutely not. They, you know, go through the same process, you know, and everything, the same training, regardless of if there's a shortage.
Nothing's changed. That they, of course, it's no secret that there's a bus driver shortage now, and they just want to make sure that we knew and that you guys knew that they aren't jeopardizing the safety.
They're not.
No.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
They say they're not.
No.
And then I'll share it again just for those of you who are joining. This is just one example, video-wise, of the crashes that Jennifer and Lauren were able to find happening in the state. And you said this bus driver, right, that we're getting ready to see, this vehicle had a dash cam, and so that's
this
why
vehicle had the dash cam and saw it. So when we saw this report come in out of the Orlando area, that's when we called the girl who was driving the car that slammed into the bus there, and then that's when we had an interview with her, just telling us, you know, that what happened, and like we said, that her car went underneath the bus there, because that's another thing about school buses is how they're built is to keep them safe, but for cars and the way that however a school bus is built, cars take a really huge impact, obviously, the size and stuff like that, but that car went underneath that school bus there, and she just ducked, and thankfully she survived, but she had 2 service dogs in her car at the time, and one did not survive. So just to hear her story, and then she wanted to know about the history of that bus driver too, and that's when we had found that there was other incidents with that bus driver.
And and looking at that, you can see, as you pointed out, I mean, these are very large vehicles. You could see where she was trying to swerve out of the way, but
Yeah. At that point, there wasn't a whole lot that.
right.
Yeah, she said when she saw it, and she tried to, she thought maybe she could pass it or move it, and then it landed right into it.
I mean, just for those who are watching, we haven't had very many questions. I think people really understand. But what was the biggest surprise for you?
I think it's just educating herself on how it works. That if a bus driver does have an accident, that it doesn't mean that we all have accidents and we don't lose our license, but what goes into it after if they do have an accident. So most of the time there is more training involved, how the point system works, why you will see an accident like the one in Manatee County. It was 5 and 3 years, and when we asked the director of transportation down there about that, he wasn't there. He's brand new, so he couldn't comment on it, and then the district couldn't comment because there is a pending lawsuit. But just to see if that is okay and what entails after an accident happens.
And we also thought it was interesting too, because most places that you work, if you drive a company vehicle, those policies, once you've been in enough accidents, or sometimes after just one, you kind of lose those privileges or could even potentially be fired. So we were curious to see if that was the case.
How it works.
Really quickly, Nancy asked what county. The video that you just saw, that was from Orange County, but 10 Investigates looked at all 67 counties in the state, of course focusing in on the 10 counties that are in
Pasco
Tampa
County,
Bay. And Pasco County is what really started all of this, and then finding out the differences in how each county and each Department of Transportation within each school district handles bus drivers and the incidents they're involved in. Others also commented on the video, and I'll share that I noticed it as well. When we look at that video, it looks like it appears that she's going pretty fast, kind of weaving in and out of traffic.
I think it was a 45 miles per hour zone, but it's anything if you're driving and somebody pulls out in front of you. We don't focus.
Walking right across the street, not a crosswalk, right?
And so and that's the thing too. We didn't focus. The thing is the accident happened, and we just want to know what the history was of that bus driver, and then it goes into the other bus drivers that we found.
Right. And that bus driver was cited for being pulling in front.
And also, it is fair to point out as well that while you're looking at all of this, I'm sure you found percentages or whatnot, but most bus drivers, is it accurate to say that most school bus drivers don't have multiple records, or is it a larger number than?
I would say not severe crashes, but the buses are huge, right? So if they nick this or nick that, but it's not a car, maybe it's a sign or something. But I would say most bus drivers are safe. You could say this one's safe, but they just have what happens once you do get into an accident if they're not pulled behind the wheel. So that's why we go into the training and stuff.
And I was surprised by the number of drivers that did have multiple accidents. That did surprise me. And it's the multiple accidents.
They are still driving.
Yeah, the multiple accidents that really surprised me.
Anything else that we should touch on?
No. I think you can read the article now if you have questions. If you just and if you have if you're just curious about your, what the plan is for your district, we did attach the safe driver plans to the website there if you're just interested in seeing what happens, if somebody has an accident or your bus driver is speeding. We had a bus driver who was speeding 67 in a 45 zone, and I think they were suspended for a day. What is the policy in your district you can look at to see,
whether you have a child.
Another bus driver changed the route, went to his child's daycare with all kids on board. So people are getting cited not just for accidents, but for discipline as well. And that bus driver was suspended for 3 days. So wasn't, it's just how it works in the different types of discipline bus drivers are getting, and just, how it works. We just want to make sure that they're, we kept on asking why, the training that's involved and how much training is if they do get in an accident.
And then
what
the
happens.
streamlining too.
And just to clarify again, like this story isn't about like kids' safety or anything. It's about the other drivers on the road with these school buses and their safety. So.
And you can watch their investigation. It airs tonight at 6 o'clock right on 10 Tampa Bay. And if you'd like to, as Jen and Lauren were talking about, go and look at those safety plans, learn more about this. If you go right now to tampabay.com, it's the first story right there you will see. And so you can get in there, go through it, understand, and see all the work that they've done on this. And this was not an overnight investigation.
No,
we took a couple months just looking at the reports, and we found, some bus drivers that had accidents. I think there was one twice in just a week, 2 different accidents, and written warning first time and then training the second time, but just the frequency of them happening.
Yeah. Is there one county that stands out that has really good policies in place to make sure that...
Like we said, it's pretty universal. It's not universal, but the points aren't crazy across the board.
Yeah.
I was Pinellas Schools was probably the strictest that we had seen through one of the strictest, at least, that we saw with the point system.
Interesting. Okay. Well, we look forward to seeing it tonight at 6 o'clock, and of course you can also watch it online as well after it airs.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody. Have a great day.
Bye.